What happens when a late-night joke cuts a little too deep and a Hollywood heavyweight decides he's done playing along? The studio lights glow warm, the band finishes its cue, and the applause rolls in like a familiar wave. Jimmy Kimmel flashes his practiced smile toward the camera, leaning forward with that casual confidence America has trusted for years. Across from him sits Mark Wahlberg, relaxed on the surface, legs spread slightly, hands clasped. But there's something tighter in his jaw tonight, something restless behind his eyes. No one in the audience knows it yet, but this isn't just another celebrity interview. This is the moment everything tilts. Before we dive in, subscribe to Prime Tale right now, hit like, and drop a comment immediately, because stories like this don't just unfold, they explode. Jimmy chuckles, glancing at his cue card. "So Mark," he says lightly, "you're one of the most disciplined guys in Hollywood. Up at 4 a.m., workouts, businesses, movies. Be honest, do you ever actually enjoy life?" Laughter ripples through the crowd. Mark smiles. A small one. Polite. Controlled. "I enjoy working," Mark replies. His voice is calm, but there's a sharp edge beneath it. "That's my life." Jimmy grins wider, sensing blood in the water. "Sure, but you don't strike me as the guy who just relaxes. I mean, do you ever stop? Or are you afraid if you slow down, it all falls apart?" The laugh is louder this time. The band punctuates it. Cameras cut to Mark's face. For half a second, the smile doesn't come back. Mark shifts in his seat, his shoulders square. He exhales through his nose. "That's a strange thing to say." Jimmy tilts his head, playful. "Hey, I'm just saying. Some people work because they love it. Others work because they're running from something." The room changes. The audience still laughs, but softer now, unsure. A few glances are exchanged. Mark's fingers tighten together. He looks at Jimmy, really looks at him, like he's weighing whether this moment deserves honesty or silence. "You think discipline means fear?" Mark asks. Jimmy shrugs. "I think sometimes it does." Silence stretches just long enough to feel uncomfortable. Mark nods slowly. "Let me tell you something, Jimmy. The band doesn't play. The audience doesn't laugh. When you grow up with nothing," Mark continues, his Boston accent thickening just a little, "when you mess up early, really mess up, you don't get the luxury of slowing down. You don't get to treat life like a punchline." A murmur rolls through the crowd. Jimmy blinks. "I wasn't." "No, let me finish," Mark says, his voice firm now. Not loud. Firm. The kind of tone that doesn't ask permission. The audience gasps softly. "I wake up early because I know what happens when I don't stay focused. I've seen where that road goes. So yeah, I work. I grind. Because discipline saved my life." The room is dead quiet. Jimmy clears his throat, attempting to steer it back. "Of course, and I respect that. I just meant." "You meant it as a joke," Mark cuts in. "And that's fine. This is a comedy show. But some jokes land differently when you've lived the consequences." The camera cuts to the audience. Some nod. Some look stunned. One woman covers her mouth. Jimmy forces a laugh. "Wow. Okay. Therapy hour on late night." That's when Mark's expression hardens. "See that right there," he says, leaning forward, elbows on knees, eyes locked on Jimmy. "That's the problem. You don't have to take it seriously. Some of us don't have that option." A wave of tension crashes through the studio. Producers shift behind the cameras. The band leader looks uncertain, hands hovering above the keys. Jimmy's smile falters, just for a moment, but the audience sees it. "This isn't personal," Jimmy says, quieter now. Mark nods once. "It feels personal when you make it a joke." The applause that follows is hesitant, scattered, unsure of which side it's for. Jimmy glances at his cards, then back at Mark. "So, movies." Mark leans back, but the fire hasn't gone out. It's just waiting. And everyone can feel it. The interview continues, but the air is heavier now. Every laugh feels forced, every transition rushed. Jimmy cracks another joke about Mark's schedule, lighter this time, safer, but Mark doesn't bite. He answers briefly, eyes drifting to the audience, then back to Jimmy, like he's daring him to cross the line again. Halfway through, Jimmy tries one more time. "You know, people say you're intense," he says, smiling. "They say working with you is a lot." Mark's eyebrow lifts. "Who says that?" Jimmy laughs nervously. "People. Hollywood people." Mark nods slowly. "Funny, because the same people call at midnight when they need something." The crowd erupts, this time loud, real applause. Jimmy throws up his hands. Okay, we get it, you're perfect." Mark doesn't smile. "Never said that." The tension has turned electric now. Not explosive, controlled. Dangerous. Jimmy leans back in his chair, exhales. Look, I didn't mean to hit a nerve. Mark's voice softens just slightly. I know, but nerves exist for a reason. A beat. Then unexpectedly, applause builds. Stronger. Unified. Jimmy nods, accepting it. Fair enough. But the damage is done. By the time the interview ends, viewers at home are already typing. Clips are being cut in real time. Twitter, TikTok, Reddit, everything is lighting up. Did you see Mark Wahlberg shut down Jimmy Kimmel? That got real fast. Jimmy crossed a line. No, Mark was too sensitive. That was raw. Backstage, Mark walks past producers without stopping. No wave. No smile. Jimmy watches him go from behind the desk, expression unreadable. By morning, headlines are everywhere. Awkward late-night moment goes viral. Mark Wahlberg's intense exchange leaves audience stunned. Jimmy Kimmel under fire after heated interview. Clips rack up millions of views. Body language experts weigh in. Comment sections become battlegrounds. Some praise Mark's honesty. Others accuse him of overreacting. Jimmy addresses it briefly the next night, half apology, half deflection. Mark doesn't respond. And somehow, that silence says more than anything else. Because in a room built for laughter, one moment of truth cracked through the script and reminded everyone that behind the jokes, the fame, and the lights, there are real lives, real scars, and real limits. Now it's your turn. Was Mark right to push back? Did Jimmy cross the line? Or was this just a moment blown out of proportion? Drop your opinion in the comments. Share this story with someone who loves real, unfiltered Hollywood moments. And subscribe to Prime Tale for more explosive, cinematic stories you won't see anywhere else. This wasn't just an interview. It was a reminder. And it won't be forgotten. Fire clapperboard. The applause fades, but the tension doesn't. It lingers in the studio like static after a lightning strike. The cameras keep rolling, red lights blinking, catching every micro-expression, every shift in posture. Mark Wahlberg sits back in his chair now, arms crossed loosely, but his eyes are still alert, still locked into the space between himself and Jimmy Kimmel. This isn't over. Not yet. Jimmy adjusts his tie, a reflex more than a necessity. He flashes a grin at the audience, trying to reset the rhythm of the room. You know, he says, forcing a lighter tone, this is why I love having actors on. So much passion. A few laughs rise, scattered and uncertain. Mark exhales, slow and controlled. In his head, memories collide. Rooms without heat, nights that blurred into mornings, the cost of mistakes that don't disappear just because time passes. He didn't plan to say any of this tonight. He came to promote a film. Shake hands. Smile. Leave. But something about the way Jimmy framed it, like discipline was a flaw, like survival was a punchline, hit deeper than expected. Jimmy continues. Your new movie's all about resilience, right? Fighting back, pushing through? Mark nods. Yeah, because that's real. Jimmy chuckles. See, full circle. Maybe I should have said you're inspirational instead of intense. The audience laughs a little louder this time, relieved to feel humor returning. Mark tilts his head. Words matter. Jimmy raises an eyebrow. They do. But context matters too. And so does respect, Mark replies calmly. The band doesn't play. Again, Jimmy leans forward, elbows on his desk now, voice lower. Are you saying I was disrespectful? Mark meets his gaze. I'm saying when you talk about someone's life like it's a bit, you better be ready for it to stop being funny. A collective inhale ripples through the crowd. Somewhere behind the cameras, a producer mouths, wrap it up. Jimmy nods slowly. Fair. But you came on a comedy show. And I respect that, Mark says. But comedy doesn't mean careless. The audience breaks into applause, real, loud, sustained. Not the polite kind. The kind that sides with honesty. Jimmy smiles, but it's tight now. Okay. Message received. Yet there's a flicker in his eyes, defensiveness mixed with disbelief. He's not used to guests pushing back like this. Most play along. Most laugh it off. Mark isn't most guests. Jimmy flips a card. So let's talk about Boston. You miss it. Mark's shoulders loosen slightly. Every day. The question seems harmless, but the tone has shifted. Jimmy's testing the waters, choosing safer ground. The audience senses it too. They lean in, curious now, not for jokes, but for truth. Boston keeps you honest, Mark continues. It reminds you where you come from. Jimmy nods. And where you don't want to go back to? Mark's eyes narrow, not angrily, but thoughtfully. Sometimes. Or it reminds you who you owe. A pause. Jimmy opens his mouth, then closes it again. He laughs softly. You're making my monologue writers nervous. Mark cracks a half smile. The first genuine one of the night. But the tension hasn't disappeared. It's just transformed, less explosive, more intimate. Like two men circling a topic neither fully wants to confront. Jimmy sighs. Look, man. I joke. That's my job. Sometimes I miss. Tonight might have been one of those times. The audience murmurs approval. Mark nods once. I get that. And I'm not mad. I just think people watching should know. Discipline isn't fear. It's gratitude. That lands. Applause erupts again, louder than before. Even Jimmy joins in, clapping lightly, nodding. Okay, Jimmy says, smiling more genuinely now. That's actually pretty profound. Mark shrugs. Comes with waking up early. Laughter finally breaks through, warm and relieving. The band plays a quick riff. The room breathes again. But backstage, the damage and the moment is already cemented. As the interview wraps, Jimmy stands, shaking Mark's hand for the camera. Mark Wahlberg, everybody. Mark nods to the audience, a brief wave, then leans in slightly toward Jimmy. The mic still catches it. No hard feelings, he says quietly. Jimmy nods. None. But viewers at home replay the clip again and again, reading lips, analyzing tone. When the cameras cut, the smiles drop. Mark walks off first, escorted by a stagehand. He doesn't look back. Jimmy watches him disappear behind the curtain, jaw set, thoughts racing. He knows this will be talked about. He knows the internet doesn't forget moments like this. Within minutes, phones buzz backstage. Twitter's blowing up. Clips already trending. People are picking sides. Jimmy rubs his temples. Of course they are. Meanwhile, Mark's in the hallway, jacket over his shoulder, breathing steady. A publicist catches up. That was intense. Mark nods. It was honest. By the time Mark steps into his car, hashtags are multiplying. Hashtag Mark Wahlberg. Hashtag Kimmel moment. Hashtag Live TV awkward. Short clips hit TikTok. Dramatic music added. Captions screaming, this got real. Comment sections divide instantly. He spoke his truth. Jimmy was out of line. Mark needs to chill. That's what real accountability looks like. Late night shows replay the moment the next morning. Morning talk panels dissect body language. You can see the shift right here, one analyst says, freezing the frame on Mark's expression. That's not anger. That's boundaries. Others disagree. It's ego. He could have laughed it off. But Mark doesn't comment. No tweet. No Instagram story. Silence. That silence only fuels the fire. Jimmy addresses it subtly the next night. Apparently I touched a nerve yesterday, he jokes, smiling at the camera. The laugh track rolls, but it's thinner now. Some viewers roll their eyes. Others applaud him for acknowledging it. Yet the original clip keeps spreading, millions of views, millions of opinions. Because what people saw wasn't just an awkward interview. They saw a moment where the script broke, where a celebrity didn't play the expected role, where laughter gave way to something real. And deep down, that's what keeps everyone watching. Because the most powerful moments on live TV are the ones no one planned. And in the next part, the fallout grows louder. Industry reactions, celebrity responses, and the quiet decision Mark makes that changes how Hollywood sees him after that night. Stay locked in. Clapperboard fire. By sunrise, the moment has outgrown the studio. It's everywhere now, playing on phones and coffee lines, paused on office monitors, looping silently on gym TVs while people argue over what they're seeing. The clip isn't even a minute long, but it carries weight far heavier than its runtime. Every pause, every look, every breath has been dissected frame by frame. Mark Wahlberg wakes up early, as he always does. The world hasn't changed for him yet. The same routine, the same discipline. But when he checks his phone, the notifications are stacked like missed calls from another life. Texts from friends. Messages from producers. A quiet "you good?" from someone who's been in the business long enough to know how fast it turns. He scrolls without reacting. Praise. Criticism. Think pieces already forming. He sets the phone down and heads to the gym, earbuds in, choosing silence over noise. Across town, Jimmy Kimmel's morning looks very different. His writer's room is unusually quiet. Screens show trending tabs instead of punchlines. One producer reads headlines out loud, half joking, half uneasy. Mark Wahlberg shuts down Jimmy Kimmel on live TV. Another voice adds, "That one's already at 10 million views." Jimmy leans back in his chair, arms folded. It wasn't a shutdown. No one answers. Because intention doesn't matter once perception takes over. Publicists move fast. Calls are made. Statements are drafted and deleted. The question hangs in the air: address it or let it fade. But it doesn't fade. Actors start weighing in, subtle at first. A tweet about boundaries on late night. A story post about discipline being misunderstood. No names mentioned, but everyone knows who it's about. Then one big name breaks the pattern. A fellow actor, known for his own intense reputation, posts, "Respect to anyone who speaks their truth, especially when it's uncomfortable." The comments explode. Now it's not just about Mark and Jimmy. It's about respect. About comedy. About where the line is, and who gets to draw it. Entertainment shows book experts. Psychologists talk about trigger points. Former talk show hosts debate whether guests should ever push back on air. One panelist says, "Late night thrives on imbalance." The host has power. When that flips, it rattles people. Another shakes their head. Or maybe we're just not used to men being vulnerable without packaging it as humor. Mark watches none of it. He's on set now, between takes, focused, professional. A co-star approaches him cautiously. "Hey, saw the clip." Mark nods. "Yeah." A pause. "You okay?" Mark considers the question. "I'm fine." And he is. But he's also aware. Aware that moments like this don't vanish. They follow you into rooms you haven't entered yet. Jimmy, meanwhile, decides to address it more directly. That night, the monologue opens differently. "No jokes about celebrities today," he says, smiling. "At least not until I clear something up." The audience leans in. "I had a conversation yesterday that got real. And while I didn't mean any disrespect, I get why it landed the way it did." Applause. Jimmy nods. Comedy's supposed to punch up, not sideways. And sometimes, yeah, we miss. The response is mostly positive. Mostly. But some viewers aren't satisfied. They wanted an apology. Others think he's bending too much. The internet, as always, splits clean down the middle. Then something unexpected happens. Mark releases a short statement. No video. No drama. Just words. Live TV is live. Sometimes honesty shows up uninvited. I respect Jimmy and appreciate the space to speak my truth. That's it. No fire. No blame. No back and forth. And somehow, that calm lands harder than any clapback ever could. The tone of the conversation shifts. Commentators note it. That's how you de-escalate without backing down. Fans share it. Class act. Critics soften. Maybe we overreacted. But not everyone forgets. Behind closed doors, bookings are discussed differently now. Producers whisper, "He won't play along." Others counter, "That's exactly why people trust him." Late-night hosts take notes. Jokes get safer. Questions get rehearsed twice. Because the message has been sent, clear, quiet, undeniable. Some guests will laugh through discomfort. Others won't. And the audience is watching which is which. Weeks later, the clip still circulates. Not as outrage, but as reference. A moment people point to when talking about authenticity in media. When someone says, "Remember when Mark Wahlberg stopped playing the role?" And the industry remembers too. Because what started as a joke turned into a mirror, reflecting how thin the line is between entertainment and humanity. And as the noise finally begins to fade, one truth remains. Live television doesn't forgive hesitation, but it never forgets honesty. And in the final part, the aftermath crystallizes. The long-term impact, the cultural shift, and the moment that defines how this night will be remembered long after the applause died. Prime tale isn't done yet. Clapperboard fire. By the time the noise finally settles, something has changed. Not loudly, not dramatically, but permanently. The clip doesn't vanish the way most viral moments do. It doesn't get replaced by the next scandal or swallowed by the algorithm. Instead, it lingers, quietly bookmarked in people's minds, resurfacing whenever conversations turn to real moments on live TV. Late-night producers adjust their tone without ever admitting it. Jokes get run through one more filter. Questions are framed with softer edges. Not because comedy is dead, but because unpredictability suddenly feels expensive. Mark Wahlberg keeps working. Months later, he's on another press tour, another set, another couch. Different host. Different energy. The questions are respectful now. Almost careful. When discipline comes up, it's framed as admiration, not curiosity. When his past is mentioned, it's with context, not humor. Mark notices. He doesn't comment. because the loudest statements don't need repeating. Jimmy Kimmel moves forward too. The show keeps its rhythm, the laughs return, the monologues land. But something subtle shifts in his delivery. He listens longer. He lets guests finish. When moments get personal, he doesn't rush to undercut them with a punchline. Viewers notice that too. Not everyone agrees on what happened that night. Some still insist it was blown out of proportion. Others say it was overdue. But almost everyone agrees on one thing. It felt real. And in an industry built on polish, reality hits harder than outrage. Years from now, the clip will resurface again. Not as drama, not as controversy, but as an example, a reference point, a reminder that live television is a tightrope, and sometimes the most powerful thing a person can do is stop performing. Because when Mark Wahlberg leaned forward under those studio lights, he wasn't defending an image. He was defending a boundary. And when Jimmy Kimmel paused, really paused, he wasn't losing control of the show. He was sharing it. That's why the moment mattered. Not because voices were raised. Not because someone won. But because for a few unscripted seconds, millions of people watched two public figures drop the act and choose honesty over comfort. And that's rare. Now we want to hear from you. Do you think Mark was right to speak up? Did Jimmy cross a line? Or did the moment simply reveal one? Was this necessary truth or unnecessary tension? Drop your honest opinion in the comments. Share this story with someone who loves raw, unfiltered Hollywood moments. And subscribe to Prime Tale for more explosive, cinematic stories that pull you inside the moments everyone else only talks about. Because the stories that stay with us the longest are the ones no one planned. Clapperboard fire.